So it was Winston Churchill who gave one of my favorite speeches of all time. It was during wartime. Sir Winston Churchill said, "We shall fight on the beaches. We will fight on the landings. We will fight indeed on the streets." And at the end of it, he said, "But we shall never surrender." And that became a clarion call during World War II. Except though, and I agree with that sentiment, except if you happen to be a former president of the United States and you've been told that, listen, if you don't surrender yourself voluntarily by Friday around high noon, we're coming to get you. That, in fact, was the predicament that former President Donald Trump, of course, found himself in. Fannie Willis in the state of Georgia told him, listen, told all of them actually, but of course, Trump gets the most publicity because he's the biggest name. He's the head of the whole gang, so to speak. And so that was his dilemma. Do I surrender or do I not surrender? Now, of course, after he surrendered, we all know now that he surrendered, but after he surrendered, he's now already, the day after, he's come out with merchandise saying never surrender. He tweeted for the first time in forever since he's been banned on formerly Twitter, but now what's called X, never surrender, he said. But he did, in fact, surrender. So what he did was he negotiated through his attorneys his surrender terms. Now, the reason why I really want to talk about this, though, is not necessarily dealing with Donald Trump. I want to talk about you. Yes, you, the person watching me right now. Because many people, most people, think that this situation in which attorneys can go in and negotiate with law enforcement authorities the terms of a surrender is only for the Donald Trumps of the world, the former presidents of the world. But I'm here to tell you differently, because I have in fact done it time and time again for everyday people like you and like me. And so here is the scenario that I have operated in this particular field in. Now, you'll have a person that has a new case, has a warrant. It may be an old case, but in any case, they have a warrant. Or you have a case that is about to be filed and law enforcement essentially says, listen, we're about to file this case, and when we file the case, you need to surrender yourself by X date. Those are the circumstances, and what happens is, and what has happened in the past is that people will call, hey, Mr. Scott, I got this situation going on. I got this new case. I have this warrant. The detective has told me that I need to surrender. Or the detective has said that on this date, they're coming to get me. Can you help me is what the plea is. And what I tell them all the time is, look, I am glad that you called because I can, in fact, help you. And what I tell people all the time is this. In these situations, it is, in fact, it's a professional courtesy is really what it is. It's not that law enforcement is required. Just like in this situation, with former President Trump. It's not that Fannie Willis, it's not that they had to work with Trump and these other defendants. They didn't have to. It was a matter of professional courtesy. The problem is most common people like you and I, we don't know that this professional courtesy exists. But what will happen is you'll contact someone, an attorney, someone like myself. I've done it in the past. So they'll make the contact. We'll talk about what's going on in the case. And what they'll do is they'll retain my services. And then once I'm retained, that allows me to reach out on their behalf and call up Mr. or Mrs. Detective and say, hey, I've been retained by X, Y, and Z defendant, and this is what we'd like to do. Can you extend this professional courtesy? And most of the time what I'm asking for is no major thing, but it's a big thing if surrendering on your terms could in fact save your job, could in fact prevent your family from losing housing, could in fact allow you to so-called get your affairs in order. Instead of, being taken off the streets, there's no one to take care of the kids. There's no one to take care of elderly parents. And all of a sudden, your world is turned upside down because you didn't arrange the terms of your surrender. And so, as I was saying, what happens is I make contact with law enforcement, and it really is a matter of professional courtesy. And so what we'll do is we'll arrange, just like in this situation with Trump and these defendants, we'll arrange, okay, when the person will surrender, where they will surrender, who can accompany them with their surrender. Is it going to be in open court? Is it going to be at the police station? How much time can you give us? And so all of these things are very important, because law enforcement could very well just come and snatch you off the street. They could very well just show up at your job or at the church or at the PTA meeting. And these things, of course, those situations are filled with humiliation, filled with trepidation, filled with trauma, perhaps for your kids and your family members. So if you happen to find yourself in a situation to where you have a new case, you've been contacted by law enforcement, and you know that your arrest is imminent. Normally, I agree with Churchill, never surrender. But in this situation, your best bet is to contact an attorney, have that attorney help you, assist you in negotiating terms, the when, the where, the how, the what, and the who, so that you can get your affairs in order, that you can make the phone calls, you can make sure that the job is set, we can make sure that the job is set, that the kids are set, that your family is good, that your housing is good. And then you can negotiate the terms of your surrender. And sometimes you can even negotiate terms where you surrender in open court, and maybe you, just like the former president, maybe you only spend 30 minutes in the building getting processed, and then you're right back out. And maybe you can be on the job the next day. And maybe you can be there that night to tuck your kids in. So I say all of that to say this. Surrender terms, negotiations, and the like are not only for the Donald Trumps of the world. It's for you. Everyday people, hard-working people, just regular people, okay? And so keep that in mind. If you find yourself in a tight like that, pick up the phone, call an attorney in your area, let them know what the situation is, and see if they can help you to surrender in an orderly fashion so that you don't have to lose your life, so that your life is not turned upside down. I hope that this has been helpful. If I can be of any further assistance, please reach out and call me. I love to talk to you about this situation. Now, in this situation, set up a reasonable surrender. In every other situation, listen to Churchill. Never surrender in anything big or small. And remember this: if you have to be found guilty of anything, be guilty of greatness. Take great care.